Welcome to Honest Whispers Review to Sell. On this video I'll be reviewing Styling S Mobile Suit Gundam Seat Series 1 Murasame. Unfortunately I did lose the instructions for this. These are the instructions for the other ones that I reviewed in this series of videos and in this series line. And this is the mass-produced mobile suit from the anime, once again, Murasame. And this was released by Bandai back in 2006. And it is a Gashapon, so it comes in a blind box. You don't know which figure you're gonna get until you open it, or basically a mystery box. And there's no designer or sculptor. Usually they're not credited for this type of minifigures or toys or gashapons. And Bandai actually trademarked the term in the US, gashapon, and they usually go by gacha in Japan. So I'm gonna go ahead and go over 5 different categories to review this. First category is design, which basically covers the pose and the concept. And just like the other figures in the same line, it comes with the 3-piece base. They're exactly the same. And just like the others in the line, you can see that its pose is very dynamic. It has its guns pointing out, whether it's about to, it's just aiming or it's actually shooting. You could even see how the eyes of the head line up with the gun. So I think that's a cool feature. They made it pretty realistic. And the gun's not just pointing in some weird direction. So the way his arms are balancing out in the back, his legs kind of folded, definitely has a natural, organic and humanistic trait, feel, and look to it. So the design for me, just like any of the figures in the same line, I think it's pretty much up there. It's very unique, it's awesome, dynamic, and you can display it in so many different angles, and at the same time you can even display this in front of another figure, like either the Gundam or the Goof Ignited. As you can see, the Freedom, the Providence, Goof Ignited, and Force Impulse. So if you just face any of them, you get this dynamic fighting pose. So it looks like they're fighting each other. So that's a very cool feature. I think the design is very awesome, even for this mobile suit, which isn't as popular, but for me it just kind of completes the set a bit. I give the design on this a 10 out of 10. And for the sculpting, which is the next category, it's pretty much close to perfect, as you can see from afar. And just to give you a perspective, just like the others in the same line, or as you can see, it's about 5.5 inches tall. The tip of the right wing kind of reaches a little bit higher, I guess you could say. So a little bit above 5.5 inches. But when you look at the scale of the figure, if he was standing straight, he's basically about, I would say, like a 4.5 inch figure. So the details for something this small is amazing, just like all the others in the line. But when you start looking up close, there are some very minor issues. Now, it may not be the sculpting, but the actual molding or the cast itself that could be the issue. And this one, I want to try to show you that the edge of the wing isn't completely flat. There is a piece of plastic that's still molded onto it. And just to give you an example, the left wing, the edge is flat completely, like all the way through. So That's a bit of a small minor issue. Other than that, I might, or you might, not all the figures are the same, but for instance on the shoulder right here, you could see a bit, it's the line, the edge is not straight. There's like a piece missing. And of course, if you compare with the other shoulder, it has a straight edge all the way through, slightly bent, looks like, but you can tell this looks more like there's a piece missing, like it got chipped off. And this is like soft plastic, so there's no way you can like chip it off like that. So it's not a huge issue or problem. It just something, and that's not an angle you'd probably be looking at anyway. So they're very minor, but I just have to point them out. So for the sculpting, I give the score a 9 out of 10. It's very close to perfect, but it just isn't. So the best I would do is 9 on this, since I don't do a 0.5 scale. Next category is painting. As you can see, the colors are exactly the same as the Murasame from anime. Very accurate. Even for something this small, pretty accurate painting from the head right there, the horns, and even kind of like the eye, like, well, it's like, they're not eyes, but it's more like a shade, like sunglass shade. So that's kind of cool. Just the design, but I'm not grading this on the design of the actual suit, but rather the figure itself. So lots of details. And when you look from afar, really pretty much looks good, but compared to the others in the line, I'm seeing more flaws on this, just minor here and there, especially like the wing right here. You can see that the dark gray isn't painted all the way through, so on the tip there is some light gray showing, while on contrast, this side only like a little piece, like a little square is missing, but on the front edge it's painted all the way through. Biggest flaw, paint flaws on this, is the shield. As you can see, lines are very crooked. They're not touching the border, so you see some white on the edge. From top to bottom, it's just kind of a little bit off. And then when you look at the bottom part, it's very straight, other than that little corner. But at least the line, I mean the paint, it's right there on the border. So it's kind of little flaws here and there. As you can see on the top of the kneecap, you can see orange isn't painted all the way through, so you could see a little bit of white. On this side, it's much more visible on the right side of the kneecap, and even a little bit on the top. The feet are overall done okay, just minor, I guess it's just not perfectly straight. If I could get it zoomed right there. Again, right here, you can see the tip, the orange isn't completely painted through. The line's slightly slanted. But these are something you have to look really up close. but compared to the others, like I said, there's a little bit more paint flaws. I mean, when you look at the details on the hand, just sculpting and painting, just the way it looks like he's completely holding the shield handle. I mean, that looks so detailed, and there's no like paint issues. Most likely it might have been painted separately, but either way, it looks very good. Well done overall. So, but still compared to the others, just not as good. So I give the paint grade on this figure an 8 out of 10. Next category is value. When I bought this back in 2006, I paid around $6 for it. And once again, it is a Gashapon. You don't know which one you're going to get. And basically now, well, not now, but maybe a week ago when I checked for these prices, they did have a few of them on there, used ones, for about $16, $17. That was shipping included. There were other ones around 20, and even an unopened box one for around like, you know, $18 or something, just slightly under $20. I checked today to see if there was any updates on it. Basically, all of them are either gone, sold out, or basically didn't sell, and I guess the seller just didn't relist them. But either way, I guess there are some rarity to this, and there is some aftermarket value. It isn't as high compared to the other Gashapons and different from different anime. But there are some Gashapon that has no aftermarket value at all. So it does have some. At the same time, it doesn't have as much, how you say, aftermarket or demand for this particular figure as you would compared to the Freedom, the Force Impulse, or even the Goof Ignited. So I give the value on this a 6 out of 10. Because over time, I could definitely see this continue to grow, you know, in value. But at the same time, it won't be as high compared to the other figures in the same line, or even if you start comparing to other figures from different anime series. So, final category overall, basically, it counts over every category that I talked about. Design, sculpting, painting, and value. And for me, just like the other figures in the other line, you know, the figures in the same line, but other figures I reviewed and shown or I own, basically it's just as good dynamically. Unfortunately, yeah, it is more of a common mobile suit, at least in the anime wise, so that always has some effect on it. And I am trying to do this just as a figure itself, but you know, when you have a popular toy or a line of toys, and you always have a popular character and an unpopular character, well, usually, in other words, this would probably be the last one on the shelf, while the other popular ones are pretty much sold out as soon as it's up there. So overall, I'm gonna give this an 8 out of 10. It is very nice, but just to be fair and honest with the other characters or other mobile suits from the same series, just doesn't have that quite, I guess, demand for it. So it's a bit unfortunate, but it's a small knock. Otherwise, 8 is still a high score. So to recap, design 10 out of 10, sculpting 9 out of 10, painting 8 out of 10, value 6 out of 10, and overall 8 out of 10. Thank you for watching. Until next time.